It's John Barton, and I work for SAP. I'm going to talk about the SAP Sybase IQ server configuration. We're going to cover Unix and Linux IQ server startup. We're going to show you how to create a Windows IQ service and configure that and set it up. We're also going to talk about database server options. The first thing you want to know about is the performans.cfg file. This is a little text file that we put the startup configuration options in, the command line switches. So some of the switches control things like memory, number of user connections. Switches can be used to control CPU, threads, and switches are used to configure the network. So here we have the Sybase IQ start command, and that command is basically giving it a start directory, SAP database, in which case the performans.cfg file and the iqdemo.db file both reside in the database directory. And there you can see we give it some network information, the host and the port to start it on. Now for a complete list of server startup switches, you can run the start underbar IQ question mark. But the majority of the switches we use, it's a small number, and I'll cover those at the end of the presentation. So if you start up the IQ server on Windows with the command I just showed you, it will come up and be minimized in the tray. If you expand it in the tray, you'll actually see the database console. Now, if you want to start the IQ database as a service, then go into Run Programs, Sybase IQ 15.4, and we have a Sybase IQ Service Manager. Right-click on that and Run as Administrator. That will open this Windows Services applet that we have to configure the IQ database server as a Windows service. So here I've created the IQ demo service, and what you do is you basically give it a name, click Create, give it a name, and then in the Startup Params text box, you paste in your command. So in my case, I have this performans.cfg file in this database directory, so I have everything fully pathed, and then I have a network configuration information, and then I have a full path to my iqdemo.db file. And so once you apply that, you will then have an entry in the Windows Services GUI showing the Sybase IQ demo service. And here you can right-click on that and modify the properties, or you can start or stop that service. So now we have IQ on Windows running as a service and automatically starting. We can also start and stop it through the Windows Network Start and Stop commands. So we've talked a little bit about server parameter switches used to control IQ and configure it on startup. The other way we configure the IQ server is through server options, database options. So options can be set at the user level, group level, or server level. When we're setting them at the server level, some of these options are, we really want to make them server-wide. But we can actually set them at the group or user level too, and they'll override the server-wide level for those users or groups when they connect to the database. So here are just a few of them that we set. Typically, append load on, force null scroll cursors on, minimize storage on, and then we'll typically set the max hash rows to some value. Here I've set it to 40 million, and we typically set it in increments of 2.5 million for each 4 gigabytes of cache you have. You can find out more about the different configuration settings in the IQ sizing guide, as well as the IQ documentation, and I've got the links at the end of the presentation. You can also set these options and see them through the Sybase Central GUI, which is our legacy GUI, and the Sybase Control Center web-based administration tool. You can also see these options. A third way to see the option settings is to log in and run the set command. And here you can scroll through, a box will pop up with the option and the value, and you can look at all the option settings that way. Now, I told you I'd go through some of the command line switches to start IQ at the end of the presentation, so we're there now. We typically set some memory configurations for the IQ catalog cache, and those are done with the -C and -CL switches. We'll also be configuring the maximum number of database connections with the -GM switch. We'll be setting the IQ main cache and IQ temp cache. And say we were starting on a 96 gig system, we'd probably start the main cache at 36 gig and the temp cache at 36 gig in memory. Would be a good starting point. We might go up from there. And we might go down from there as well, based on whether you're using file system-based devices and that the file system may need caching as well as the database. Or if you're using raw, then you typically go more at the total memory of the system. We also have the -P, which is the maximum communication packet size, and you can boost that from 7,300 to 16,000. There's a couple of other things to know about. When IQ starts up, it looks at the environment, sees how many physical cores are on the box, and it does some calculations, and that controls IQ's parallelism to a certain extent. We can increase the total number of IQ threads if we want to using the IQ MT. That gets set automatically based on the number of physical threads on physical cores on the box. The IQ number of CPUs we can adjust up or down, and that controls the parallelism within the optimizer, and as well as loading, and it basically tells IQ how much resources it has. Doesn't control which physical cores IQ runs on. IQ will still run on all the cores on a server, but this controls how many cores IQ thinks it has. So in some cases where we want to throttle it back, we'll set IQ number of CPUs down, or in cases where we're running on operating systems where there's a large number of virtual cores, we may increase this beyond the physical cores. For more information, check out the practical sizing guide for IQ 15. And there's also information in the utilities guide and the system admin guide on the startup IQ and IQ startup. And then for the options, you'll find that in the Sybase IQ reference statement and options guide under database options. Thank you very much, and good luck with your IQ server configuration. Thank you.